But that particular story of the visitation begins with a really important line. So what you hear is that the Blessed Virgin Mary arose and proceeded with haste. She arose and proceeded with haste. Now in the Gospel, when people move, it's kind of important, especially in the Gospel of Luke. Where people move, how they move is really symbolic of what's going on interiorly. And indeed, when you look at the original Greek, the word which is rendered here as arose doesn't just imply like standing up. It implies a physical movement which reflects a spiritual move in one's heart, which requires great effort. And so here's something which requires great effort in the part of my heart, my spirit, which results in me doing something physically. And what's kind of interesting, if you look elsewhere in the Gospel to see where this particular expression arises, arise, arose, however you want to frame it, it's kind of interesting. Where else do you find this particular word? You find it, for example, when it comes to the parable of the prodigal son. So you remember the younger son goes to his father, give me the share of the property owed to me, so the inheritance. I don't care about you, I don't care about our relationship, I just care about cold, hard cash. So give it to me now. And the father gives him the share of the property owed to him. And then the son goes off to a faraway land. He loses his share of the property in loose living, prostitutes and whatnot. And what you hear in the original Greek is that as a result of doing this, going away from the Father, who is the principle of life, going away to a far distant land, his essence is dissipated. His essence is dissipated. But then he comes to his senses. And what you hear is that he arises and goes back to his Father. You find a similar thing when it comes to the calling of St. Matthew. This comes true in this really famous painting by the 17th century painter Caravaggio. So I saw this painting actually in Rome myself in person. So basically you see St. Matthew, who obviously was a tax collector, and he's basically tax collecting. He's done his thing, he's a traitor to the people in terms of collecting exorbitant taxes on behalf of the occupying Roman Empire. And he's with his fellow tax collectors, and he's basically counting his money. You see Jesus Christ at the door, and he points to him. It's kind of interesting. I point to you and I call you to myself as you are, like right now. I know that you're a sinner. I know you're a tax collector. You're doing that right now. But it doesn't matter. I call you right now to leave everything and follow me. And what you hear is that St. Matthew arises and follows the Lord. Perhaps the most striking example of this particular word or phrase, you find this word used in the context of the resurrection. Jesus Christ, he rises from the dead. You put it all together, right? The whole idea is that if you encounter the Lord, his presence, his grace, this is meant to bring about a great change and transformation in your heart, which propels you forth on mission. You tie it back to the story of the three magi. In the vast majority of cases, this does not happen. Most people respond with indifference, with fear, or maybe even hostility. And so something needs to be in place for me to respond to God's grace and his presence and his love. And what is this? You need a restless heart, a spirit of hope, and a desire for the one true star of salvation. If that's in place and you encounter any manifestation of God's grace and his presence, you will arise and proceed with hope. You will run in the direction that God calls you to run, to do what he wants you to do, and to be who he wants you to be.